Very sad news to start our program today. Incredibly sad news. Many are calling it the worst day in the history of Tampa Bay, Florida, to be a piece of bubblegum. Others in Pittsburgh are calling it the day the music died. Longtime special teams coordinator Danny Smith has accepted a position with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be their brand new special teams coordinator. Danny Smith has over 30 years of coaching experience in the National Football League. He's been with the Steelers since 2013, so he's been in charge of that special teams unit for a very, very long time. And this is not a surprise. Honestly, this comes just a week after the report that the Steelers are giving all, Tomlin assistants, all current coordinators and coaching staff members to seek new opportunities. And the Steelers have made it clear that whoever they hire at head coach is going to have full reign over their staff to bring in whoever they want. They're going to have a set budget and they're going to be able to mix and match whoever they want to. They can retain some guys, certainly, but certainly Danny Smith didn't feel like he stood much of a chance. But what does this mean for the Steelers? Who can they possibly get to replace Danny Smith? I'll tell you guys, I am not in the least bit concerned with who replaces Danny Smith. In fact, I'm not the least bit concerned with where any of the current Tomlin assistants land. I don't care, guys. And that may seem harsh to Danny Smith, who I like. He's a fan favorite. Nothing to dislike about Danny Smith, but what are we doing here? I see people genuinely acting like this is the end of the world. And I get it. I get it's the joke. I get it's the fun thing to like Danny Smith. He's fun. He's quirky. He's got the bubblegum thing going for him. But what does he really do for the Steelers? Danny Smith had a pretty damn good job for the 13 years he was here. Was he telling Chris Boswell to kick it through the uprights better? Was he telling Chris Boswell to be one of the better kickers that the Steelers have ever had? Probably the best kicker the Steelers have ever had. No. Also, if we're really going to criticize Danny Smith for things that have gone wrong with the Steelers special teams over the last couple of years, the Steelers have not been able to figure out a position like punter for the last 5 years. They drafted Presley Harvin. He was a complete and total dud on and off. He kept getting hurt and, wasn't with the team for various reasons. They had to bring in a bunch of backups a bunch of different times. Then we have Cameron Johnston, and I'm really excited at the prospect of him. He gets hurt the first game of the year, and then they're with a backup punter all year. Then they bring in Corliss Waitman to, have a camp battle with back from injury Cameron Johnston. Corliss Waitman beats him out, and Corliss Waitman was 25th in the National Football League in terms of net average per punt. Now, I know, Joey, why are you yelling about punting in January? Some of you guys don't want it like me. So, some people really care about this Steelers football thing. And I'm one of those guys. Corliss Waitman was not good this year for the Steelers. He was a complete and total dud. I'm not quite sure how he beat Cameron Johnston out, but that's neither here nor there. If we're really going to talk about the way the special teams have been, they haven't been great. They really haven't been great. I can talk about Caleb Johnson not knowing the rules of football as a kick returner. That seems like a pretty important position as far as, in Danny Smith's special teams. Not that the special teams have been like the reason the Steelers lost a bunch of games or anything like that. They've been all right, I guess. But I don't get the notion of being upset where any of these Tomlin coaches go. It shouldn't matter. When in the last 10 years have you guys been watching the Steelers and you've sat down and you've thought, man, this is a really good coached football team. This collective group of coaches they have is a really good coaching tree. Coaching tree? Mike Tomlin doesn't have one of them. Doesn't have one of them. I know some people would comment Bruce Arians. I don't really count Bruce Arians. I guess you can if you really want to. Arians was kind of forced out of Pittsburgh. It was a weird thing. Look it up. Look up the history of Mike Tomlin and Bruce Arians. Very weird. But if you want to count him on the coaching tree, sure. Point being, Arthur Smith is probably going to get a job somewhere else, whether it's being a head coach or being an offensive coordinator. He's going to land some position somewhere. Is anybody really going to be upset that the 25th ranked offense in the National Football League is not going to be there? The man who led the 25th best offense in the National Football League? This is my point, guys. The Steelers were not very good at the end of the day last year. They snuck into the playoffs. They are not a well-coached team. They need a complete total regime change. This is the right move. Let those guys go out and seek those opportunities. Danny Smith, if he sticks on with Tampa Bay, I think that's awesome for him. Good for him. Now, what I will say about Danny Smith leaving that kind of sucks, and I think we're going to see, the effects of this with free agency, whoever the Steelers hire, maybe the Steelers won't have that same draw that they usually have because of Mike Tomlin. And I think Danny Smith is one of those guys that the players really advocated for him. What Danny Smith did do very well, he had a couple of phenomenal gunners and a couple of phenomenal just special team savants. Over the last couple of years, Miles Killebrew is a multiple-time All-Pro on special teams with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Skoranek has been phenomenal on special teams for the Steelers over the last couple of years. He got Pro Bowl this year. He was the leading special teams Pro Bowl vote getter. Shout out Steelers Nation and shout out Ben Skoranek. It seems like those guys are really going to want to keep Danny Smith around. Obviously, that ship has sailed. So I think what you're going to see is maybe some guys that, have their contracts expiring with the Steelers. They could look the other way. Or maybe the Steelers won't be that big of a draw because they don't have that coaching staff. And, word of mouth spreads, especially within NFL circles, and these players, they're going to be like, hey, I really like Danny Smith. Let's go to Tampa Bay. Not that Danny Smith's going to get any all-pro or he's going to attract some big-time player, some big-time guy that the Steelers are really going to miss. But I'm just saying, I do think that Danny Smith was able to use these guys correctly in some way. Obviously, I'm talking about the Gunners in particular with Killebrew and Skoranek. Those guys had a lot of success here. So I guess if you're really depressed about Danny Smith, I guess what you can look at it to say is like, man, guys like Ben Skoranek and Miles Killebrew, they were impact players, special teams. Maybe we won't get those kind of guys anymore. But as far as who can the Steelers replace Danny Smith with, not really my concern, to be perfectly honest with you. Anyone with a pulse. Anybody, I'm more worried about head coach. I'm more worried about who's calling the plays offensively and how they're going to right the ship offensively because the offense has not been good in over half a decade, and who is going to right the ship defensively and what they're going to do, how they're going to construct the roster. Those are my main concerns. Danny Smith, not really super high on my list. Good for him for going out and getting a job in less than a week. Shout out Danny Smith. I will miss you chewing bubblegum on the sidelines. Bad day to be a piece of bubblegum in Tampa Bay, Florida. Also, to close out this video, I have to talk about this again. I know I posted a Mike McCarthy video just yesterday, but more information has come forward. More information has been presented to me, and I have some thoughts. Andrew Filipponi, this is a pro Andrew Filipponi page, a pro Andrew Filipponi podcast with Jack and I. Jack, an intern for 93.7 The Fan. Shout out, Jack. This comes in from the Pony Express. Source, Mike McCarthy has a legit shot to be the Steelers' next head coach. It's not a courtesy interview for a Pittsburgh guy. He's not a candidate to be the offensive coordinator. He thinks he can get the job. And this, obviously, some insiders were pushing Mike McCarthy narratives today. They really, really were. They were buttering him up, making him look good, saying like, hey, Mike McCarthy, this isn't an interview just because he's from Pittsburgh. This is an interview because this is a guy who can legitimately get this job, right? Do I actually think Mike McCarthy can get this job? Man, I hope not. But I'd be lying if I'm not a little bit terrified, guys. I'm absolutely terrified at the thought of it. A lot of Steelers players say that they want Aaron Rodgers back. A lot of them said in their exit interviews, this is per Adam Schefter, that they want Aaron Rodgers back. They don't think he was the issue. They love him as a teammate. They love him as a player. They think he's got more left in the tank, all of that. Now, if you've listened to the podcast in this channel for any amount of time, I'm an Aaron Rodgers apologist to a fault. I have defended Aaron Rodgers more than just about anybody that you'll find on this app or on social media as far as being the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. I think bringing back Aaron Rodgers for another year would be a mistake. I also think what would be an even bigger mistake is hiring someone who he said that he would like to play for again. Yes, Aaron Rodgers has said that he would like to play for Mike McCarthy again. Would the Steelers actually consider bringing in Mike McCarthy for another year of Aaron Rodgers? I would like to think that Art Rooney and Omar Khan are not that short-sighted. I would like to think that Omar Khan has enough say in this organization now that Mike Tomlin has gone to where he'd say, Art, this is kind of insane. Even if Art really wants to hire Mike McCarthy and bring back Aaron Rodgers, why are we doing this? This is someone who has been fired at multiple stops. It's ended not great in a couple of stops. We have a precedent set of we're going to hire very young guys and build for the future. This team's not built to win now. We saw their absolute ceiling this season, and their ceiling was getting the doors blown off of them in the wild card round by a quarterback who all but pooped down his leg in the divisional round. He didn't look good against the Steelers, but still, that was some of the worst quarterbacking I've ever seen in the divisional round from C.J. Stroud. That's the Steelers' absolute ceiling with their current roster. If they're bringing back Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy, will the offense look a little bit better? I mean, I guess it'll look marginally better, but I think his ceiling is still pretty capped with Aaron Rodgers. I think he raises their floor, but I don't think the ceiling raises any with Mike McCarthy. And I'm really hopeful that, everybody in the organization is not this short-sighted. This does not make any sense. If you're actually excited about the prospect of Mike McCarthy being the Steelers head coach, I would love to hear why, because this is a doomsday scenario. This is an all-time doomsday scenario. I really think the Steelers are doing right, and they're, waiting their turn to interview Chris Shula and Steelhouse. I think that's probably their best bet, guys. I still think it's going to be one of those guys. If I had to guess, if I had to put my bottom dollar on it, I'd like to think Brian Flores also has a better shot than Mike McCarthy. I don't view Mike McCarthy as a serious candidate for this head coaching job, but when there's smoke, there's fire to these reports, guys. As we've learned about the Steelers have been connected to Chris Shula for well over a month, even when Tomlin leaving was just a fantasy, when it was just an idea. So I feel like that's got to be the leader in the clubhouse. But it sounds like Mike McCarthy is actually getting like real traction to get this job. And I know I said that I would give whoever they hire a fair shot. I would give even Mike McCarthy a fair shot. But let me tell you what, it's going to be an incredibly short leash. This would be an absolute nightmare of a scenario. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you like Mike McCarthy? I mean, do you actually think he can get this job? It sounds like he has some leverage too. I don't know. Pittsburgh guy going back to Pittsburgh. I know some old Yinzers will be very happy about that, but not myself. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Couple of exciting videos coming up later this week and a big time collab. Stay tuned. I appreciate all of you for watching, and I will talk to you guys later.